once again, I think it's important to challenge the critics on statements they make against the Book of Mormon when they portray the themes of archaeology and history, and they say you have no archaeological evidence in favor of the Book of Mormon. You have no archaeological proof. That statement in and of itself is simply and blatantly false. I think a more correct way that the critics need to present themselves is to say, you have no archaeological or historical evidences or proofs that I will accept. That would be a more correct statement. One area in the Book of Mormon that I have discovered, and it's been discovered, and of course I've been aware of this, but it finally dawned on me, you know, this is significant enough, I'm ready to present this information, is this gruesome and wild story about Ammon smiting off the arms of the warriors at the waters of Sebus as they scattered the king's flocks. And then they took the arms into the king, and it completely terrified and astounded and amazed the king. In fact, it so impressed him, he thought Ammon was the Great Spirit. He thought Ammon was God. Now that's pretty impressive for a missionary to get that close to a king, but his military martial arts skill with his sword of smiting off the arms of his enemies, and then those arms being presented to the king, is there anything remotely like this in the Solomon Spaulding manuscript in Joseph Smith's day? Is there anything remotely like this in Ethan Smith's view of the Hebrews, the two sources that critics keep saying were the basis for the Book of Mormon? The interesting thing that we have direct archaeological, direct historical, and in ancient warfare studies, we have evidence of just such an occurrence. Now this is utterly fascinating. In the book Re-Exploring the Book of Mormon, edited by John Welch, A Decade of New Research. This is the Farms Updates. This is for 1992 from Deseret Book Company. He talks in chapter 51, page 180 and 181, of this theme of Ammon cutting off the arms of enemies. The practice of cutting off the arms or other body parts of enemies, sometimes the hands, sometimes the feet, sometimes the arms. This idea, specifically as a testimony of the conquest of victims, is attested in the ancient Near East. Isn't that fascinating? On the extreme left of Band 4, on the decorated gates of Shalmaneser III, who dates from 858 to 824 BC, the Assyrian troops are shown cutting off the heads, the feet, and hands of vanquished enemies. In other reliefs, the artists of the Assyrian kings depict the military scribes recording the number of the enemy dead in accordance with the number of the severed heads or the hands and feet which Assyrian soldiers hold up in front of them so that they can see and count them. This practice seems related to that of the astounded servants of King Lamoni, who took the arms that had been cut off by Ammon to the king as a testimony, is how the Book of Mormon record puts it, of what Ammon had done. Now, there may be several reasons behind this widespread phenomenon in the ancient world that ranges from the ancient East all the way down into Egypt in the Old World. First, there's the need to obtain an accurate account of the dead, of course. Military officers tend to exaggerate their conquests for self-aggrandizement, political gain, power, of course. Similarly, Ammon or his companions, they were scrupulous to present precise evidence so that no one could accuse them of overstating their feat. Second, there was a need for mercenary soldiers to be paid. And so they were often rewarded based on the number of the victims that they had killed. And Ammon, of course, had no interest in receiving compensation for his service to the king. That wasn't the reason he smote off those arms. He was simply defending the flocks of the king. Other reasons for the practice may have included the need to identify the dead. So body parts were usually selected that were somehow unique to the victims. Taking an arm may also have been a symbolic symbol, significance in punishing thieves who had misappropriated property by hand. Because such a common punishment for thieves in the Muslim world was just of this type, although Jewish jurisprudence came to avoid any bodily mutilation. Finally, an often heard threat in the ancient Near East today is that of vowing to cut down any arm raised against a person. Similarly, as many of their arms were lifted against Ammon, are those only that he smote off. It was when they took the offensive that he took the defensive and smote their arms off. Now this is a fascinating situation. We have direct historical, direct archaeological, and direct warfare themes on this. The interesting thing is, we have the line drawings of the archaeologically discovered bas-reliefs from Egypt and Assyria of just this event. Fascinating. The evidence shows the hands being smitten, the hands being cut off, the arms and hands being smitten and presented to the king and the queen. There's another bas-relief right there. We have the direct archaeological evidence of just this precise practice as the Book of Mormon elaborates on from the ancient old world. But wait, there's more. We'll do it like the old TV commercial, you know. If you order within the next 10 minutes, order this book, we'll give you a second book for free, the Journal of Book of Mormon Studies. And actually, these are free on the Farm's website. Now, in the Journal of the Book of Mormon Studies, Volume 8, Number 1, for $19.99, we have an extra bonus. This is so interesting because Bruce H. Yermati discusses Ammon and the Mesoamerican custom of smiting off arms. And this story of Ammon is also confirmed in the practices of ancient Mexico. Astonishingly enough, we have the actual, I hope you can see that, the actual photo of a man holding a smitten arm in one of the reliefs. And they show various hands of the enemy and the arms that they were smiting. Look at this guy. See if I can get this right. He's holding that arm right there. Isn't that fascinating? We actually have it in the artwork of the reliefs in Mexico.